Alright, let's talk about tones and semitones on the guitar. Remember that a semitone is the smallest interval between two notes, and we use the piano to demonstrate where those notes are between the white and black keys, and the white and white keys, the black and white keys. Well, on the guitar, there are no black keys. Every fret looks the same, so you can kind of like use a visual, although it's even easier to see, but there are no black and white keys. Every note is the same. So how do you count the semitones and tones, or the whole notes and half notes on the guitar? Well, it's actually really simple. I think you can even understand it better than the keyboard, but that's just my own opinion. So if you're playing a note, okay, if you're playing a note here, or let me use this example instead. If you're playing a note, this note, and you move up just one fret higher, okay, so remember I said going this way means you're moving up, and going this way means you're moving down. So up the neck or fretboard and down the neck, or you can say up one fret, up two frets, or something like that, or down two frets. So anyway, if you just move you're here, right, and you just move one fret higher, you've moved a semitone higher. Or if you move one fret lower, you've moved a semitone lower. Whereas if you actually skip a fret, you skip this, you move, you're here, you're moving here, you skip that, and you play another note, that means you've moved one whole step. So that's what it is. There are no, like, you can say maybe this is a black key that you've skipped, but there's no need for that. All you want to do is know that anytime you move one step, one fret upwards, that's a semitone. One fret downwards, that's a semitone. But if you end up skipping a whole fret, that's a whole note. A whole note. And a semitone, or a half note, anyhow you want to call it. So up the neck means you're moving closer to the fretboard. You're closer to the sound hole, because the sound hole is somewhere here, while down the neck means you're moving somewhere to the headstock, closer to the headstock. So that's the direction you want to remember. Alright, so now that we know what the layout of the fretboard looks like, the string names, and how to identify the tones and semitones on the guitar, let's figure out where the actual notes are so we can start playing some tunes. Okay, this is where the fun is actually. So remember I said, the names of the strings are E, B, G, D, A, E. Eat beans, Gary, Dodo, and Eba. I always laugh when I think about that. And we know on the keyboard, if you remember, we said there's a sharp. So if you're writing, let's start from C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. There's no sharp between E and F. There's no black key. And we have F sharp. Then we have G, G sharp, A, A sharp, B, and C. Okay. So we know the arrangement of the musical alphabet. Okay, now what happens is that when you play the E string, okay, let's start from this E string, you're playing E. Now what happens when you place your finger here? Okay, now what is happening is that you're playing the E string, but you're not playing an open E string. Okay, you're putting a finger on the first fret. Okay, so this is the first fret. If you put your finger here, you're playing a different note, and that's not E. If you put your finger here, you're playing a different note, and that's not E. That note is F. Okay, remember that after E is F. After E on the keyboard is F, so we are playing F there. I'm just gonna use a red. Now, after F on the keyboard, what's the next note? F sharp, right? So this note is an F sharp. Okay, so if you go to your guitar and you play this note here, you put your finger there, you're playing an F sharp note. All right, and it goes on the same, right? This is a G, this is a G sharp, this is an A sharp, B, C. Okay, now you go to the next string, and the next string is a B. That sound, this sound here is a B. You're playing it, you're not touching the fretboard, you're just plucking the string. It's a B. So what happens when you touch the first fret? What happens when you touch the second fret of the B string? What happens when you touch the third fret of the B string? What is happening is that you're playing the notes that are after B. So after B is C. Okay, so that means you play B. When you put your finger on the first fret, that's a C note. Okay, then the next, when you put your finger on the second fret of the B string, that's a C sharp. This is a D sharp, E, F sharp, G. And I mean, it goes on. That's how it goes on. If you take D for example now, the next note will be what? Yeah, D sharp, E, and then F sharp. So that's how you know what notes you're playing, because you're just following, this formula. You're just following the musical alphabet and the knowledge that there are no sharps, or there's nothing between E and F. It's just a semitone apart, and there's nothing between B and C. It's just a semitone apart. So you can see that between E and F, we are not skipping a note, but between, say, G and A, we can skip, right? Because there's a sharp there. All right, I hope you're able to understand that, because this is what it looks like in reality. I mean, not in reality, because they don't write this on your guitar. I'm sure there are some stickers and all, but like, this is something you should have memorized in your head, or let your fingers know that when you play an E string without touching any of the fret, that's an open E, and the next note after it is F. The next note is F sharp, but if you skip it, you play a whole note, and that's G. And it repeats. Here is another E. So every note on this string, on this low E string, is actually the same with every note on the high E string. The only difference is the pitch. So you have a high E and a low E. Okay, and after B, we have C, C sharp, D, E, and so on and so forth. So that's how it goes on. So I think your assignments, you'll be asked to replicate this this diagram. I don't want you to copy exactly this and just speed it up. Like, try to work your brain and try to name all the notes on the guitar fretboard. More of that should be discussed later. So let's try to apply all that we know in constructing the C major scale. If you watched the previous lesson, you know how we constructed how we constructed a major scale, and the formula was tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, which is what we see here. We see tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. All right, so let's apply that to the guitar. Now, what do we know here? What knowledge do we have? We have knowledge of the open strings. This is E, this is B, this is G, D, A, E. And someone says to play the C major scale. So where's your first C that you can think of? So you know that if we play the B open string, that's a B. Okay, this is the B. Sorry, this is the B. And now when you play the first fret on the B string, that's a C. Okay, that's a C. That's a semitone. That's a half note. So this is C. So C is played on the first fret of the B string. Okay, once you identify where your C is, you then use the tone, tone, semitone. So tone means what? A whole note. You skip a fret. So this fret is skipped and you play D. Okay, so what does that sound like? Okay, now you move another tone, you play E, you skip this fret. Okay, and then the semitone, you play F, a tone, you play G, another tone, play A, another tone, you play B, and then the semitone, you play C. So what does that look like on a guitar? Tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Okay, can you identify what I'm playing? So that's the major scale. So that's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So that's how you play the major scale on one string. The B string. Okay, you can play it on any string, but this is the easiest to kind of look at right now. All right, so but there are other ways to play it. Like I said, you could find C on, okay, so this is a vertical view of the neck, this is a horizontal view. You can, when you're googling like guitar tabs and guitar chords, you're going to see it in either form, horizontal or vertical, but you should be able to identify what notes they're talking about. So on this vertical here will be E, that's the high E, B, G, D, A, E, and here it's already given. Okay, so what happens is they want you to play the major scale starting from fret 3. So this is where your C is. How do we know that? After A is A sharp, after A sharp is B, after B is C. So if we start on the A string, this is the A string, the 5th string. So the next is A sharp, the next is B, and the 3rd is C. So that's where your root, that's where you're starting from. Okay, okay, so you can start anywhere you find C. Right, on the keyboard there are C's everywhere. You can start anywhere you find C's. On the guitar, same thing, there are C's everywhere. Once you find C's, you can start playing your major scale from there. So here you can see you play on the 3rd fret of the A string, then you skip 1 fret and play on the 5th fret of the A string, and that's your D note, and you go to the next string. So this is playing on multiple strings. Okay, the same thing here, but here they were starting on the 8th fret of the E string. Okay, so if you go to the guitar and you count frets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so this is C on the E string. Sorry. So that's how you play the major scale on that. Okay, all right, I'm just going to stop here for you to kind of absorb what I've said. It might be a lot, but you know, if you have to rewatch this video to get it, do so. If you have questions, you know, send me a message. I'm just going to pause here for a bit and then continue in the next video. All right.